didn't ask for this. That's just how the cards were rolled out for me.
That statement is true for all of us. None of us ask for the life that we are given as children. And when Willa says, that's just how the cards were rolled out for me, she is expressing the unfairness that she feels about the life that she was given. And that feeling of being handed a life you didn't choose is something many of us recognize, even if our stories look different than Willa's. This is a story about how a child integrates the truth of where she came from without being defined by it. It's about what actually heals her given the hand that she was dealt with in life. So let's walk through what healed Willa, what mattered most, and why it matters far beyond this film for all of us. Hi, I'm Dr. Pam, therapist and relationship counselor. Welcome to my channel. I am so glad that you're here. And if you're new here, welcome. I'm going to just dive right in. So let's start with Willa's beginning before she was even born.
If he's feeling different, I dropped this thing inside my stomach.
It's like she doesn't even realize she's pregnant.
So Willa's mother, Perfidia, is driven by the cause that she believes in, not by the experience of becoming a mother. And Bob points out that she moves through her pregnancy as if she's barely aware that she's carrying a child. So from a psychological lens, that often suggests a lack of emotional connection forming during pregnancy. Now, it is important to say this. You don't have to be carrying a child to form a deep bond. Attachment can grow in so many ways. But in Willa's case, her mother doesn't appear to seek connection with her after she's born either. And when that early bond is missing, a child often begins life already searching for something they can't yet name. So for Willa, this means entering into a world without a sense of feeling and being wanted or emotionally held by her mother. And that absence doesn't just disappear as she grows, it stays with her as she grows, shaping how she tries to understand who her mother is and what that means for her. And I'll talk more about that as we go on. But first, let's hear from Perfidia's mom.
My child comes from a whole line of revolutionaries. And you look so lost. She's a runner. You're a stone. What are you going to do about this baby?
Perfidia's influence in her life seems to be deeply shaped by the fact that she comes from a long line of revolutionists. It's almost as if it is in her blood. And her mother acknowledges that Perfidia is a runner, letting Bob know that the care of the baby will fall to him. And he does embrace that role. But what stands out is Perfidia's strong reaction to his love for Willa as a baby.
I want to feel seen and loved and appreciated. I carried her 9 months, and now he could just get the. It's like she's his only girl.
Well, this is a glimpse into emotional struggles that can arise after childbirth. And so for Perfidia, that collides with her other challenges that she already is going through. And it might sound terrible that she communicates feeling jealous of her baby, but that's actually not uncommon. And for many mothers, that kind of honesty brings shame, not relief, because it doesn't match how they think they're supposed to feel. I am not suggesting that shame is warranted. I am simply stating that it is common to feel shame when we share our emotions that don't align with what we think we should think and feel.
How I feel crazy because I'm just like, am I weird for being jealous of my baby?
Perfidia questions if she is weird that she is jealous of her baby. But once you know that many women go through experiences like this, it can reduce those feelings of shame and help you feel less alone with those thoughts and feelings. And in Perfidia's case, it might be hard to extend understanding toward her as we witnessed her behavior during her pregnancy. And Bob is right when he says that she acts like she doesn't even know that she's pregnant. And then reality hits her when she gives birth. She feels disconnected from the baby.
You have her to take care of. Where the hell do you think you're going?
It's okay, baby.
It's okay.
But as Perfidia's mother says, she is a runner. She comes from a long line of revolutionists, and for her, Her instinct is to run. Each of them makes a choice. Perfidia chooses to walk away and Bob chooses to stay. And this is how Willa's life begins, with a mother who didn't connect with her during pregnancy and who ultimately walks away, choosing the path of revolutionist over motherhood. That choice affects all of them. Bob is left to care for a baby on his own. Willa experiences an early and painful separation at the very start of her life. And Perfidia, as we see later on in the movie, and I'll speak more about this, lives with the weight of that decision to leave her child. But for now, I want to focus on Willa and how this beginning shapes her and what she needs in order to feel whole, what she needs to feel safe and seen and worthy of love.
Thank you.
You're hungover and you got home at 3 o'clock in the morning. Where were you?
Or what? This isn't even warm, sweetie.
Where were you?
Where was I? I specifically told you where I was. You asked me that, I told you where I was. I was at the Rustic Inn with the old band.
Now at 16, Willa is, not surprisingly, a parentified child.
How'd you get home?
What do you mean?
How did you get home?
Well, with my car.
You drove?
So what are you, my babysitter? What?
Yeah.
I know how to drink and drive, honey. I know what I'm doing. I didn't
Dad.
have that much. What? What?
I don't want to be your babysitter. I don't want to worry if you wrapped your car around a telephone pole.
We see this in the way that she takes care of her father, or as she puts it, babysits him. At the same time, he often speaks to her like a child, or more accurately, like a teenager who still needs guidance. But parents are meant to worry about their children, not the other way around. And because that balance is reversed, Willa is forced to grow up too quickly. She's carrying responsibility that doesn't belong to her, while also living with a father who struggles with his own coping behaviors and instability. And all of this is happening on top of an earlier loss for her, being left by her mother at birth. So when her father struggles, it doesn't just feel like another difficulty in her life. It becomes confusing. The person who stayed is now someone she can't fully rely on either, and that leaves her without someone she can truly rely on. When a parent is hurting themselves, a child can begin to wonder if they are not enough to make that parent choose safety and stability. Even when that isn't true, it can feel that way. And when that feeling is layered on top of an earlier experience of being left, it cuts even deeper for her.
Well, I didn't wrap my...
I didn't ask for this. That's just how the cards were rolled out for me.
It's dice, sweetie.
What?
It's not cards. You don't roll cards. It's dice.
Bob, just with that, okay? Grow up.
Wow. Okay. Well, you look. I like the way you're standing up for yourself. I'm proud of you, honey.
What's interesting is that Bob corrects Willa in a way that feels more like how a teenager might mock or correct a friend. And in response, she calls him by his name, Bob, which is telling. It's a sign that the roles between them are blurred. He then tries to reframe the moment by saying something a parent might say, like, I like the way that you stand up for yourself. But the truth is, she shouldn't have to stand up for herself in this relationship in that way. That's not a child's role. She's learned to hold her own because she's had to, not because she was meant to. When a child is placed in a position where they have to self-advocate too early, it can look like confidence and maturity on the outside, but underneath it often comes from having to grow up too fast. Safety isn't about being strong. It's about being able to rely on someone else.
Who's this? Who's that? Who is that?
Oh, they're just my friends.
And they have a red car like that, just driving a little loud, don't you think? Is that your date to the dance?
My friend.
Okay. You're not going anywhere with your friend until you take it. Take it. Yep, put it in your pocket.
I don't want to put it in my pocket.
Now, on top of all of that, she has to live with her father's paranoia. Whether his fears are justified or not, Willa hasn't lived the life that he has. So for her, it doesn't feel like protection. It feels like instability. What she experiences is a parent who feels unpredictable, and that can be deeply unsettling for a child who already is carrying so much.
What's up, homie?
Hey, how's it going?
You cool?
Yeah, I was just here to pick up
Yeah,
Willa.
you normally knock that loud at somebody's house like that?
Yeah,
give us a sec, homie. You got a purse? This is non-negotiable. Put in your purse.
Nobody's coming to get you, Bob. You know that, right?
That's what you think.
But from Bob's perspective, he's trying to protect her. The problem is that when you grow up with a father who struggles with unhealthy coping patterns, who feels unpredictable and overly paranoid, and when you've had to be the more responsible one, it's almost impossible to suddenly experience him as a protector. When a parent hasn't been emotionally reliable, their attempts to step into authority later don't often land the way that they want them to. So for Willa, it's not that she doesn't want protection, it's that she's never learned to trust it from him.
It's gone. Poof.
There's a quinoa casserole with frosted flakes in the oven. Don't leave it on.
Got it. Have fun, homie.
All right.
All right, cool.
Let go of him.
And even in her annoyance, she's still taking care of him, still parenting him. And when he salutes her, he is acknowledging that dynamic. In that moment, he is accepting her as the one in charge, the one who has been holding things together. So what we are beginning to see is what she's really been missing, not strength, but safety. Okay, so that's what she went through with her dad. Let's see what she learns about her mom.
Sandra, what new mischief now?
I have the child, Willa Ferguson. This is Perfidia Beverly Hill's daughter. I'm coming to you in an hour of need and desperation for safekeeping.
Unbelievable.
We begin with Willa meeting someone who knew her mother. What she says next reveals that she's searching for a connection with her mom in some way of some understanding of who her mother was and what that means for her.
Do I look just like her?
No, not really. But you do on the inside, which makes you quite a risk around here. The daughter of a rat is a baby rat, and we must be careful.
If you watch closely, Willa smiles when she asks, "Do I look just like her?" There's a tenderness there, a hope for connection. But instead of being met with warmth, she's compared to her mother in a very harsh way, labeled as a rat. It's a powerful moment where her curiosity about who she is meets rejection instead of understanding. And this is what she has been told and likely believed about her mom her whole life. Let's watch.
What does she know?
She thinks her mom was a hero. And have the guts to tell the truth. I couldn't.
So she's grown up being told that her mom was a hero, and now she's being told that her mom was a rat. And at 16, when you're already in the middle of trying to figure out who you are, that kind of contradiction can be deeply confusing. When the story of where you come from keeps shifting, it becomes hard to know what parts of yourself you can identify with, and it can also leave a young person questioning not just their parent, but themselves.
If this doesn't line up, you'll go free. But if it does line up, if this is a straight line, you got a problem.
And now Willa meets the man who tells her, "If I'm your father, then you have a problem, but if I'm not, you're free." That's a lot for anyone to take in. And it's important to remember that Willa likely had no idea that Bob might not be her biological father. So this moment doesn't just surprise her, it disrupts her entire sense of who she is and where she comes from. What makes it even more destabilizing is that the man who may be her father clearly doesn't want that to be true. She's left holding the weight of a possibility that she never asked for. It's not just information she's receiving, it's an emotional rupture that challenges her sense of identity and safety.
Do you think you're my daughter?
Did you love her?
Answer me. Do you think you're my daughter?
It doesn't matter what that test says. I have a father, and it's not you.
Is that what you call a father? He wasn't enough for your mother. How's he going to be enough for you?
As I was watching this, I couldn't help but think about so many people that I have worked with who grew up hearing different things about one parent from the other parent. When children are given conflicting messages about the people who raised them or even were partially in their life, it can impact how they understand themselves and their family story. At 16, when you're still figuring out who you are, knowing where you come from matters more than we often realize. So much of identity is formed through understanding our parents. How am I like them? How am I different from them? And what parts of them live in me? That's how we begin to make sense of ourselves. So for Willa, that process is deeply complicated. She has a mother who left, a man who may be her biological father but feels like he's such a frightening and unsafe person, and then she has the father who raised her, someone she now has to parent herself. But here's the hopeful part. Even when our beginnings are confusing or painful, identity doesn't stop forming there. Understanding can come later, meaning we can grow over time, and healing doesn't require perfect parents. It comes from making sense of our story in a way that allows us to feel whole.
You should put on more makeup to make yourself look better. You go to a dance, you make an effort. You put on more makeup.
When you meet a parent and they say something deeply shaming, what do you do with that, especially at 16? At that age, your sense of self is still forming, and words from a parent, even one that you didn't know existed, can be a hurtful punch. I've worked with many people who met a parent only once, and what was said in that single moment stayed with them for years, not because the words were true, but because they came from someone whose approval mattered, even if they didn't want it to matter. But this is where I want to offer some hope. Again, moments like these can leave a mark, but they don't have to define you forever. With time, understanding, and support, people can learn to separate who they are from what was projected onto them. They can begin to see that another person's inability to show care or compassion says far more about that person than it ever does about you.
You're this little princess, aren't you? Smart-mouthed. Like your mother had a smart mouth and I buried her.
Are you having trouble remembering what you just read? If it's a straight line, I have a problem. If it's not, you have to let me go. God, there's no way I'm actually yours because I can actually read.
Shut up! Just shut up!
Willa has a feistiness in her that can help her reject the words of this father. That feistiness isn't defiance for the sake of rebellion. It is something protective in her. It's the part of her that knows on some level that those words don't get to define her. When a young person has even a small internal sense of self, it can act like a shield. It doesn't erase the hurt, but it can help them question what doesn't feel true. And over time, that inner strength can become the place where healing begins. Not by denying the pain, but by refusing to let it decide who you are. Willa's journey continues as her biological father wants her gone permanently, and Bob is in a desperate pursuit to protect her and bring her home. Up until now, Willa has acted as if nothing has impacted her until her father finds her.
Are you okay? Are you okay? Are you okay? Come on, go to the car. Go.
This is where Willa finally feels at home in the arms of her father. Despite all of his failures as a parent, he never failed to love her, to want the best for her, or to pursue her when it mattered most. What she finds in that moment isn't perfection, It is a sense of safety that she has been longing for. It's the experience of being chosen, protected, and held, something she's been searching for all along. And sometimes that's what healing looks like. Not a flawless parent, but one who shows up when it counts.
I didn't give it to you before because I just didn't want to expose you to certain stuff. You know, I didn't want you to feel sad or confused about it. I don't know what I wanted. I wanted to protect you.
And this is where it all comes together for Willa. Bob shows up as a father who is finally able to name his intention, that everything he did in his own imperfect way was meant to protect her. Even though he didn't parent her in the way a child needs, his desire to protect her was real. And part of that protection in his mind was shielding her from who her mother was and the life that she lived. What's important here is that intention and impact can exist at the same time, meaning his love was genuine even if some of his choices caused harm. And for Willa, understanding that difference becomes part of how she makes sense of her story, not by excusing what was missing, but by recognizing the love that was there.
From all your mom's shit, from all my shit. I suppose I wanted to be the one that you came to for help, right? And I'm the one, the cool dad that you could say anything to, even though I know that's impossible. But I don't want to lie to you about anything anymore.
And isn't this what we all want from our parents? Honest, vulnerable openness. What's so meaningful here is that Bob finally takes ownership. He doesn't defend himself or justify his choices. He acknowledges the truth, and in doing so, he also carries some of the responsibility on behalf of her mother. That's important because when a parent can take responsibility, even imperfectly, it builds trust. He owns that he lied to her, even though his intention was to protect her. And while that protection, which came in the form of intensity from Bob, may not have been what she needed, honesty now gives her something to help her understand and heal from her story. This is what helps a child make sense of their story and their identity. Not perfection, but truth. Not flawless parenting, but accountability. It's in these moments that healing becomes possible, when a parent can say, I didn't get it right, but I'm here with you now. And then he gives Willa the letter from her mother.
I don't mean to shock you, but I've been contemplating writing you for a long time. I often wake up and I find it completely crazy how and why I am where I am today. I disconnected from my family. I pretended my whole life. Pretended to be strong. Pretended to be dad. Is it too late for us? After all my lies.
When Willa's mom shares that she's been thinking about writing to her for a long time, it communicates something very important, that Willa has been on her mind. And that can land in a complicated way. Part of Willa may feel touched or relieved to know that she wasn't forgotten. And at the same time, she may feel angry or hurt that it took so long for her mother to reach out to her. Both reactions can exist at the same time. What matters here is that her mother is taking ownership. She has acknowledged that she lied, and that is meaningful for Willa. When a parent can name their mistakes and take responsibility for them, it can have a powerful impact. It doesn't erase the pain, like I said, but it does help a child begin to make sense of their story in a way that feels more grounded and real. That kind of honesty can open the door to understanding, not because everything is suddenly okay, but because the truth allows healing to begin.
Are you happy? Do you have love? What will you do when you get older? Will you try and change the world like I did? We failed. But maybe you will not. Maybe you will be the one who puts the world right.
Willa's mom shares that she wanted to change the world, and she suggests that maybe Willa may be the one to do that instead of her. On the surface, it sounds hopeful, even empowering, but underneath, it can carry something more complicated. For Willa, this can feel both like an invitation and a burden. It places meaning on her life, but also suddenly can pass on unfinished dream from her mom. When a parent frames a child as the one who will carry forward what she couldn't, it can create pressure to live not just for herself, but for her mom's unmet hopes. And yet, there is also something human in this moment. It shows her that her mother is trying in her own imperfect way to connect, to offer purpose rather than absence.
I think of you every single day, every single day. And I wish I had been strong for the both of us. I know someday, when it's right and it's safe, you'll find me. Please send a kiss to your dad, my ghetto pad. Love your mom, Perfidia.
Then Perfidia expresses something deeply important: regret. She acknowledges that she wishes that she had been strong enough to stay. What's meaningful here is that she doesn't make excuses and she doesn't blame anyone else. She takes responsibility for her choice, naming it as her own failing rather than something caused by circumstance or by Willa herself. That kind of ownership is so important. Even though Perfidia doesn't fully name the impact her leaving had on Willa, she does something crucial. She removes blame from her daughter. And for a child who has lived with the weight of being left, that can bring real relief. When Perfidia says, "When it's right and when it's safe, come find me," she gives something important back to Willa: choice. She isn't demanding closeness or forcing reconciliation. She's allowing Willa to decide if and when she's ready. And for Willa, that can soften something deep inside her. After years of feeling left behind, she now knows her mother carries regret, not indifference. And sometimes that understanding alone can begin to loosen the grip of early separation, or the impact of that early separation, not because everything is healed, but because the story finally holds truth, responsibility, and respect. There it is, healing moment for both Willa and her dad. Healing didn't come from discovering who her parents were. It came from being pursued, loved, and finally being given a story about herself that made sense. None of us ask for the life that we are given, but healing can begin when someone, a family member, a therapist, a mentor, or even a steady presence who sees us clearly, helps us make sense of where we came from and how it impacted us. With that understanding, we are no longer defined by our past. We are able to move forward with more freedom and choice without being defined by our past. Well, that is a wrap for today. Thank you so much for watching. See you next time.